Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of selections from Euripides. Just reading through bits of the Alkestis, and I'm going to resume at line 935. So at this point, after the previous speech of Heracles, Heracles goes off. And of course, he's told us what he's going to do. He's going to rescue Alkestis from Admetos. The chorus and Admetos come on stage, and they have what's commonly known as a komos, or a song of lament. They've just returned from the funeral, and Admetos finally begins to sink into Admetos here that perhaps things have not worked out as well for him as he thought. He realizes he's now going to be very lonely, and he begins this rather moving speech. Philoi gunaikos daimon eu tukesteron tumu nomizdo kaipe dokunt homos. O my friends, I consider the daimon. Now this is this fortune or fate we've seen before. So I consider the fortune of my wife. Eu tukesteron. This is from eu tukes. It's a comparative adjective, third declension. So I consider the fate of my wife to be more fortunate, tumu for tu emu, than mine. Kaipe, although nevertheless not seeming so. So although it doesn't seem so, I consider the fate of my wife to be more happy than mine. Tes menga uden algos hapsitipoti pollen demokthon eu klees epausato. We get a nice men and det here. For algos, pain, will ever touch her in no respect. So, in other words, pain will never afflict her, never touch her, and she will, and Eucleos, and with a good reputation, with her reputation intact almost, she will cease from, or she has ceased from her many labours. Ego de hon ukren sen, pares ta mor simon lupron diaxo bioton arti manthano. But I, who ought not to have lived, who ought not to be alive, this is an imperfect from kurei, for whom it was not right to live, pares, having, this is from parihiemi, so having got past my destiny, because he was destined to die, diaxo, future from diago, I will lead. Now diago is a fairly standard verb to lead one's life. So I will lead a lupron bioton, a bitter life, a life of grief. Arti manthano, I have just realised that. Well, perhaps a little bit late, but that's what he says there. He's just realised that what the consequences of living without Alkestis are going to be, and he explains all that in the next section. Pos gardomon ton dies odus anexamai. So how will I endure, from unecho, how will I bear, how will I endure, literally the entrances of the house. So how will I endure going into the house? How will I bear going into the house? Tinan prosepa, and having addressed whom? So who is there to address? And tu de pros retes hupo, and being replied to by whom? The hupo, you can tell by the accent, is post-positive, so it's going back with the to. Pros retes, the wraith root here is from the aorist passive from lego, it's ereithane. So being addressed by whom? So who will I address and who will reply? Terpnes to koim an ex odu. And well, it's sort of I would meet with, it's a question, and what joyous going out would I meet with? So when I go out, what happiness will there be when I go out? It's difficult to translate into English here. I would meet with what joy in going out, in my leaving. Poi tripsomai, where will I turn? Heimen ga endon ex ela me eremia. Gunaikos Iunas ut an eis ido kenos threnus, tenoisi hisde, kai katastegas, aukmeron udas tekna damphiguna pitnonta plae, mater hoi de despotin, stenosin hoian ek domon apolisan. Quite a long section here. Now the hey men goes with the eremia, and we get, well, I'm not sure where the deck comes, but perhaps down here. So for the desolation, the eremia, the desolateness, the barrenness within, ex ela, this is future from ex elano, will drive me out. Ut an plus the subjunctive. So whenever eis ido I might see the empty beds of my wife, that is my wife's empty bed, it's plural for singular, and the thronus, well, the thrones or the seats, en hoisin, on which hisde, imperfect, she used to sit. Kai katastegas, now katastegas means about the house. The aukmeron udas. Aukmeros means filthy or dirty or dusty or squalid. Udas are the floors. So presumably because they haven't been swept, because his wife's not there anymore to do all the work. So perhaps some translators might say unswept floors, or the dusty or squalid floors. And the children will weep for their mother, falling amphigunasin, dative plural from gonu, falling about my knees. Hoide, now this must refer, I think, to the servants. It doesn't say that here, but it must be referring to the servants. And those whom, could be, and those whom, stenosin, grieve for the despotin, the mistress, hoianek domun apolisan, such a one they have lost from the house, plural for singular. So the hoian here is almost like hoti toian, because they have lost such a mistress from the house. And so perhaps he's pointing over to the servants' area. So this lot, the servants who would groan over their mistress, lament their mistress, because they have lost such a one from the house. Tamen kat oikos toiadi. Such are the affairs at home. Exothen de me gamoi telosin Thessalon kai sullagoi gunai kaplethes. But on the outside, the marriages, so from the outside, the marriages, and the sulogoi, now this is from that leg root of collecting. It's not the leg root, lego to say, but the lego to collect. So the gatherings. So the marriages and the gatherings of the Thessalians, LOC from Elauno, will probably drive me inside from outside. So they will drive me, understand, inside, because they're gynekoplethes, they're full of women. Uga an examai, luson dematos tes emes homelikas. For I would not endure looking at, participle here, looking at, now the object of that is homelikas, women of the same age or as my wife. So the tes emes goes with the dematos. So I could not endure, I could not bear looking at women of the same age as my wife. Ere de me hostis ekthroson kurei tardi. And someone, and whoever chances or is being an enemy, so someone who is my enemy, the kurei here is slightly odd here. So it's kurios just means like the verb to be. So we have a verb here, ere, so he will say to me, whoever is my enemy, that he will say these things. It's not clear how to get the kurei into this. Idu tan iskros sunth, hos uk etle tanen. Al hain egemen antidus apsukia, pefugen haiden. So, behold this man, so look at this man who is living in such a terrible way, disgracefully, or such an unhappy, miserable way, who did not endure from Talao to die. But Apsukia, by his cowardice, he escaped Hades, Antidus giving in return she whom he married. Eight ane einai decane. Then does he seem to be a man? Stuge detus tekontas autosu thelon tanen. And he hates those who bore him. This is the aorist participle from ticto. He hates the ones who bore him, he himself not wishing to die. Toyandi pros kakois incledona hexo. And such, so I will have such claredona. It's a funny word here. It's something like repute or perhaps slanderous comment. It's a noise, really, a clairdone. It's perhaps gossip almost. So he will have such noise in addition to his evils, to his troubles, pros with the dative. Why then is it better for me to live, my friends? For me, now we get an idiom here, kluon kakos. It's literally to hear badly, but it doesn't mean you can't hear. It means that you've got a bad reputation, to be ill spoken of. And having fared badly, perfect from prasso. So why, my friends, is it better for me then to live when I am ill spoken of and I am faring and I have fared in such a bad way? That's that rather moving little section there of speech of Admetos.